Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I have 6 o'clock here on my clock tonight and want to make sure that we are able to kind of transition from our WaterSC open house to our listening session. If you'd like to grab a seat, we encourage you to do so. For those of you who are joining us here live at the Phillips Market Center, I will just note, you may have already seen when you came in, if you would like to be able to participate in this session, please make sure you let them know at the registration table. There's also some ways to continue to comment. This is in the sheets you should have seen when you were coming in. I see everybody kind of getting settled in. So let's see if we can get started. Mercy. That was literally a mic drop. So put the spare microphone aside for now. So good evening, everyone, and welcome. And thank you so much for being here tonight as part of the WaterSC listening session at the Phillips Market Center at our South Carolina State Farmers Market in West Columbia, South Carolina. Today, we've held an open house where many of y'all have been able to come and learn more about the collaborative efforts of WaterSC, which is focusing on how we use, sustain, and manage South Carolina's water resources now and for generations to come. So WaterSC really began in September of 2024 with Executive Order 2024-22. And it gave us a charge of being able to work collaboratively to update the state water plan by the end of 2025 and had other important milestones for that group to reach as well. And we're here tonight because we all care, because water is a shared resource. And it's really an important part for how South Carolinians live and work and play and how our state continues to grow. It supports habitats, wildlife, recreation, tourism, agriculture, forestry, energy, industry, drinking water supplies, and much more. And with our water supply, with WaterSC, we see all of those groups coming together to have conversations about the future of our groundwater and surface water resources. While those water resources are abundant, it's a critical time for WaterSC to continue to guide the future of planning and management for those resources during this time of economic growth and prosperity. So WaterSC really benefits from the collective voices of South Carolinians in these timely conversations. WaterSC is building upon the data, the technical information, the previous efforts, lessons learned, and experiences of so many that I see across this room tonight to be able to help us update that state water plan, including our River Basin Council process that's been ongoing for a number of years. So my name is Christy Ellenberg, and I am the Director of Collaborative Partnerships and Strategic Initiatives for the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, or SCDES. But tonight, I'm really honored to be serving as a facilitator and host for our WaterSC listening session. Again, each voice is valuable to WaterSC, and tonight's listening session is an opportunity as a hybrid meeting for others to listen, learn, and offer comment both remotely and here at the Phillips Market Center, which can be shared with the WaterSC working group, providing valuable input into this process. So for those, I had a question even before I came up here tonight of how is this going to connect? Our WaterSC working group will be meeting again next week. The comments that are coming in tonight, the questions that are coming in tonight, we're collecting those. They're going to be shared with the working group. They're going to be reflected in the report, kind of summarized in the report that we are going to be preparing that is for the General Assembly Surface Water Committee at the end of January as well, by January 31st. So we have a lot to do, and we really want to have your voice in this process. And so I'm going to see if we can get there a little smoother. I want to check in tonight we do have this hybrid meeting. Believe me, I think we kept it from snowing tonight. That's really what we did. We made a hybrid meeting. We wanted to make sure this was accessible for everyone. And so we do have some that are joining in to listen in online, but we also want to make sure if they're able to participate that they have that opportunity to do so as well. So I would like to introduce briefly a few members of our virtual meeting team who are connecting us to those who are joining and participating remotely. Here in the room, we have Paul Miller, who's been helping y'all even from the moment that you came in. Paul's down over in the corner. And then I want to make sure we check in with kind of our tech hosts that are helping us tonight as well. So on behalf of our SCDES community engagement team, we have Donna Moy and Catherine Yan. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves, which, by the way, also make sure we have all of our sound working the way it's supposed to. So Donna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Moy, and I work in the Bureau of Land and Waste Management. I'm happy to be here tonight to help out.
Thanks, Donna. And Catherine?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Yan, and I work in our communications department as the Director of Creative Services.
So we appreciate everybody who's been contributing tonight from our staff and the staff of other state sister agencies as well. So just a few notes, because we have this hybrid meeting. We want to make sure everybody's able to hear and be heard. So first, this WaterSC listening session is being recorded. That recording is going to be available on our webpage. It's also going to be how we're able to, again, take the information presented tonight and connect it back with the ongoing efforts of WaterSC. And if I will say, if we start to have kind of sidebar conversations in the room, it may be really helpful to go to the lobby for that, just so we can make sure the audio is very clear and those who are joining virtually as well. For those who want to speak tonight, I'm going to ask that you do come to this podium, because as you can see, we got all kinds of microphones that are up here to help everybody connect and make sure that we're capturing those voices in the recording. So if you're joining us remotely, encourage you to use the link in our WaterSC webpage. You can complete a simple registration. It's really our comment form that is there. And that way we can have that contact information for you, make sure to keep you informed throughout this process. And also a note for those who are in the virtual meeting, I believe your cameras are turned off and the lines are muted right this second to be able to minimize the background noise or any echoing. As we begin to take comments, you'll be able to raise your hand to indicate you want to speak, and then you can be unmuted as you're called on. So we'll give a little further instruction as we keep moving on. So on behalf of WaterSC, again, it's such a pleasure to be with you tonight, both remotely and in person. We thank you for taking the time to join us, and really, let's just keep in mind our purpose tonight is to listen. It's a listening session, and we're here to listen to you and be able to make sure I have my notes here, be able to share your comments with that working group. So we've already had some great conversations tonight. I know I've enjoyed connecting with many of you during the open house that we had. That was some great discussion, sharing some great information and data that we already have, and some of the highlights of what WaterSC has already been working on in the past months. And I do want to, maybe as we get started this evening, just recognize that we do have a number of our WaterSC working group members who are here tonight. I'm going to ask y'all to just kind of wave your hand, say hello if you are in the room, representing a lot of the different sectors that we have that are part of this effort. And so really, thank you again for being here, and let's see if we can start doing some listening. So a few just quick guidelines, and then I'll be trying to see who we can call on. Again, make sure that we kind of stay respectful. Make sure you speak into the mics that you have when you're here in the room. Make sure you're watching your step when you come up here. I think I was the last one to almost trip, so we're going to try to not emulate that. And we are going to ask that you kind of limit your comments to about 3 minutes each, so that we can make sure everybody has a chance to participate. If you have longer comments, you can also share those by email and back with our form online. So with that, let's see if we can check in with those who might be interested in speaking tonight. This is my little list, so give me a second to walk this way. I think first up we had Alan Stewart with Duke Energy.
Good evening. I'm Al Stewart with Senior Project Manager with Duke Energy. First, Duke Energy wants to thank WaterSC for holding this forum and accepting public comments on the water resource planning in South Carolina. Since 2018, Duke Energy has actively taken part in South Carolina water resource planning, including having representation on the Planning Process Advisory Committee, the predecessor to WaterSC, and on most river basin councils. Our experiences to date with water resource planning process have been incredibly positive, and Duke Energy would like to commend South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and South Carolina Department of Environmental Services staff on the quality of stakeholder collaboration performed during this process so far. Duke Energy has observed an important common bond shared by all participating stakeholders in the water planning process, which is the belief that South Carolina's waters are one of the most important resources available to our residents. Recognizing this shared belief, Duke Energy feels it is critically important to continue water resource planning efforts and develop a comprehensive state water plan. Duke Energy further believes stakeholder engagement and water planning process so far has resulted in solid foundations for development of a comprehensive state water plan, which will serve and guide for water policy in South Carolina. Recognizing the importance of and need for water policy, Duke Energy encourages the state to continue investing resources necessary to develop and implement an action-oriented state water plan that focuses on long-term sustainability at the river basin level, which should foster economic prosperity and protect environmental resources for current and future generations in South Carolina. In closing, Duke Energy would like to thank the state of South Carolina for having the vision and taking the steps necessary to ensure sustainability of South Carolina's water resources. Respectfully submitted, Duke Energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I do want to make sure we check in with our virtual team as well. Again, if you've joined us virtually and would like to make a comment, please make sure you raise your hand. Our technical team will be able to note that, and we'll be able to call you and have comments from you as well. The next person I had on our list actually had a maybe by their name, so I don't want to put them on the spot, but Hugo Crispin, do you have some comments to share with the group?
Sure. Hi, good evening. My name is Hugo Crispin. I am your Edisto Riverkeeper with Friends of the Edisto, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. I've been involved in the water planning conversation in South Carolina now since about 2013. I do live on the headwaters of the North Fork of the Edisto, so in a lot of ways, my involvement in this entails some enlightened self-interest. At least I hope it's enlightened. We have had the opportunity leading into the WaterSC process to submit comments. And so we have made, on behalf of Friends of the Edisto, some written comments that I won't take you through word by word and step by step. I would like to say a few general things. One is, one of the dissatisfactions I had with the Edisto RBC process was, with all good intentions, we set out to do it so that what we did was collaborative and consensus in nature. In the pursuit of consensus, I had the personal opinion that we failed to address some of the larger issues entailed in this water planning project. And I would like to urge the members of the WaterSC working group, tackle the hard questions. Don't avoid taking on the tough issues just because they're the tough issues. This is what we need to be talking about and what we need to be addressing. One of the things I'd like to ask that y'all include in your recommendations, which I presume will be going to the legislature, is that water planning is not a one and done process. We're not going to finish the 2025 water plan, and that's everything we ever have to do for water planning ever again in South Carolina. It has to be ongoing. It has to be an iterative, repetitive, tough, working process. And one of the things that will support that and structure that is if there is an effort to provide ongoing structured funding for getting this work done. Without the legislature funding this work, it flounders. We need to have support from the legislature for the folks who are the professionals who are doing this planning work to continue the work and to be able to count on an actual time frame. I'm excited that WaterSC was impaneled. I think it's excellent the governor has put his weight behind the thrust towards water planning in South Carolina. But don't be fooled that you're going to finish this up by the end of the year, because that's the deadline. And that water planning's done, then you don't have to think about it anymore. If you go back and look at what happened in the Edisto watershed with the Edisto River Basin survey that was done in 1998 is when that project came out. And I know that, for instance, Bill Marshall staffed on that when he was a young man. That project, when you look at what they had to say about water in the Edisto Basin and agriculture, which became a real touchstone in this situation about 2013, 2014. When you look at what they had to say, they didn't see that on the horizon. It's not in that report. It basically says that agriculture is an important industry in South Carolina and that there's should be enough water to handle what agriculture needs. But it doesn't foresee any of the controversy that has followed. So that's the main thing I'd like to do, is say that this is vitally important. It's going to be ongoing far after we're out of the process. And it needs to be approached from the standpoint that we have to work together. If we're not working together and finding consensus and collaboration where we can and compromise where we can't, we're never going to get this job done. So please take it seriously. And if there's ever anything I can do in my various capacities, call on me. Thanks.
Thank you, Hugo. It looks like we have someone online who wants to speak as well. Is it Tanya Bonatadopoulos? I might be a little bit off in that last name. So, Catherine, can you help Tanya be able to unmute?
So you said that perfectly. That was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
That
Tanya.
never happens. That's awesome. I'm Tanya Bonatadopoulos with Savannah Riverkeeper. Just a couple of quick comments. I'm really very excited to see South Carolina engaging in water planning on the Savannah River in a serious way. We've been playing with it for a long time. I serve on the Georgia and the South Carolina side, and all four in some capacity, and have been engaged with them. A couple of things that I hope you'll keep in mind moving forward is, number one, of course, you need your river keepers on each one of your basins, but you also really need your elected officials and you need your municipalities. And one that often gets left out that I would love to see more included is EMA. Because planning decisions and water resources during an emergency situation need to be thought about and incorporated kind of more into this process. Because when that water starts flowing, people got to be able to get out of the way. The other is to just to kind of nail home the importance of trying to get everybody in the room as much as possible. That you've got to have ag, you got to have industry, you've got to have energy and conservation, and leaving any of those out really kind of leads to failed planning. So the Hyundai facility in Georgia, for example, has now announced yesterday that they're going to expedite their removal of water out of the Savannah River. And the reason that's important, and I'll kind of maybe close with this, is that Georgia has recently, Catherine will get a kick out of this, and I don't know, she might be sitting in the room, but I'm gonna use her as warning. But Catherine is, in my opinion, the person who negotiated the Georgia, Alabama, Florida wars water wars. And she has now been reallocated to the South Carolina side of the state. And that's been done very strategically by Georgia. And South Carolina has to be top of its game right now and make sure that you're fully at the table and understand your resources so that you're not losing out to Georgia, because you will, because they, like I said, they just brought in the big dogs. So thank you for this conversation and thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And let me see if I can keep getting some last names right. So it's Catherine Amadon. I screwed that up. I did. Amadon.
You're good. It's easier than once. I also want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'll keep hopefully my comments relatively brief. First, I will comment with my Saluda RBC hat on. I'm the vice chair for the Saluda RBC. I just want to echo, we sent a formal letter to WaterSC expressing our support of the process and our enthusiasm to be a resource as the process continues. And so we want to make sure that we articulate that, and also that we want to see investment happen in implementation. I'm a planner by trade. Planning is great. When it sits on a shelf, it's not great. And so the investment for the implementation for all of the actions that each of the basins have come up with is really critical. I really appreciate the comment that Tanya just gave about education. I think our municipal leaders, planners at the municipal level, elected officials all need to understand how the actions and decisions that they make tie into this greater plan. And that needs to be funded and formally done afterwards. My next comment I will be giving as my professional hat as an environmental planner. When I graduated with my environmental planning degree, I made it my career mission to fundamentally change the way people think about water through land use. They're connected. We often don't talk about that enough. And I mean that both from a quantity standpoint, which is our current focus at the basin level, but also a quality standpoint, which cannot be ignored, especially as we continue to break record after record with the number of people moving here. So I really encourage that there's some consideration to land use planning and how that relates to our water quality and quantity moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next, we have Ken Tuck.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ken Tuck. I'm the Director of Drinking Water Services for Spartanburg Water. I'm also the Chair of the Broad River Basin RBC. So thank you for all the WaterSC folks that have volunteered and are participating in this process. It is greatly appreciated. I love y'all's mission. So I think you'll find as we went through each of the RBCs, we actually developed missions very similar to what WaterSC has come up with. So thank you for that. My comments are more from the RBC perspective. We have spent a considerable amount of time over the last several years really driving a true stakeholder process. So we talk about stakeholders, we talk about engaging and pulling together these stakeholders. That has been done throughout each of the RBC. So you've got a wealth of knowledge and input and recommendations that are coming out of these RBC councils that we hope is good information that can help build that foundation to carry forward the mission of what WaterSC is trying to achieve. So I know also that there have been a lot of comments in the water sector. So putting on my water hat, we also want to keep in mind that things important to economic growth, and then also being conscious of the shared resources. So some of the comments I heard as I floated around the room this evening, focused around that, focused around the Surface Water Withdrawal Act and how that would come together in this as well, especially on some of the grandfather status surface water permit. So know that that is on the minds of the utilities, but it's also on the minds of all the international economic development that's going on in this state. Along with that, you know, we as water utilities have invested a considerable amount of time and planning, most of that capital planning based on the permits that have been issued to us by the state of South Carolina. So as we look at water planning, just like the big river basins did, and I'm sure WaterSC will also do, is there's a tremendous amount of planning that goes in decades, you know, not just 5 years, not just 10 years, but 30, 50-year horizons where we've basically positioned ourselves financially and positioned ourselves through bonds and everything related to the permits that we've been issued. So there is a great deal of discussion about that amongst the water utilities and also the economic development community. So I thank you for the time. I thank you for the comments. And I think this is going to be a great process. We're excited about what y'all are doing.
Thank you, Ken. We'll just note for those who are in the room, we've got a pretty full room here, but there's 24 people also joining us virtually. So I'm going to keep checking in with them as well. Just a reminder for those joining us virtually that you can raise your hand at any time if you'd like to make a comment there, and we'll keep kind of fitting you into the listening session as well. So next we have Melanie Ruhlman. I got that last name right?
You did.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm 2 of 3. There we go.
Doing great, doing great. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today. I'm Melanie Ruhlman. I'm serving on the Saluda River Basin Council representing environmental interests. And I have issued some recommendations to, some written recommendations related to policy. And I'm going to read some of an excerpt from that tonight. So I am going to get into, I'm a technical person, but these recommendations were developed with interest of our long-term use of our rivers. So not today, not 10 years from now, but looking way down the road, 50, 100 years from now. We want to see our rivers, they are the crown jewel of our state, and we want to see them to keep flowing. So and some of these comments are very direct. These are recommendations, so please bear with me. In May of 22, EPA issued a decision document to DES stating that the provisions of the South Carolina Water Withdrawal Act are stream flow standards that create new water quality standards that do not comply with the Clean Water Act. And EPA found that these provisions are not consistent with applicable legal requirements, are not based on sound scientific rationale as required by the Clean Water Act, and do not protect the state's designated uses as required, and don't provide for the attainment and maintenance of downstream water quality standards. So the Act and regulations profoundly changed South Carolina's water quality standards, and there are conflicts between the existing water quality standards and the flow standards and exemptions for major users under the water laws. So while South Carolina's existing water quality standards require water withdrawals to maintain stream flows necessary to protect classified and existing uses and the water quality supporting these uses, the Water Withdrawal Act and implementing regulations ignore those standards and exempt all users withdrawing surface water since before 2011 and any flow standards from any flow standards whatsoever, and allow some users to drain the rivers completely dry for most or part of the year. So the South Carolina's water withdrawal laws authorize dangerous depletions and in some cases complete dewatering of the state's rivers and streams. So these recommendations, 3 recommendations specific to the water law, are meant to help remedy the conflicts outlined that I just outlined. The first is to require permits for all statewide for all existing and new water withdrawals over 3 MGM, including those before 2011, and all registered users. So all users must be evaluated for reasonableness and must meet minimum in-stream flow standards, minimum in-stream flow requirements. This way, all users are subject and held to the same standard. The second recommendation related to the Water Withdrawal Act and implementing regulations is revision of minimum in-stream flow standards based on best available science to adequately protect designated uses, and that all All withdrawals, whether future, new, or existing, should be subject to these same flow standards. The third is related to safe yield, which is the upper end of for determining water allocation. Safe yield is essentially not safe, and I can get into that why. And I heard the bell, so I'll just wrap it up. Separate from the Water Withdrawal Act, and please, if you haven't had a chance, please read these and consider what these changes might mean in the long run. But the second overall recommendation is for a statewide riparian buffer law. Our riparian buffer laws are, we don't have a state riparian buffer law. Other states do. We have local riparian buffer requirements that are fragmented and inconsistent, but a minimum state riparian buffer would go a long way to protect our waters. We're seeing more extreme events happening more frequently. I see it firsthand, and it's costing a lot of money to try to rebuild that resiliency that could be more effectively developed on the front end just by simply having riparian buffer protections to protect our water resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Next, we have John Rivers. And after John is going to be Jason Gamble. So, John, you ready?
Thank you all. I just want to make a few comments. I'm John Rivers. I'm a farmer in Sumter, and I just want to tell you a little bit about my operation and how important water is to us and my family. We farm roughly 3,000 acres and 95% irrigated. And without water, especially in a year like this, we couldn't survive. So it's solar. We built our operation completely around it. My father was about to go broke, and they were about to shut down in the 80s. And then he started putting in an irrigation system, and we ended up able to survive that way. And that's how we're still here to this day, and our family's still farming. We spend roughly 10% of our budget every year solely on upgrades and infrastructure upgrades for irrigation systems, just so we can be more efficient for future. We don't want to use the water. We want to use the best way we can, but we have to so we can survive. And I just want to tell you a little bit like that. And we are 100% for water use, and we want to be very efficient in it. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, John. Jason? Jason Gamble.
Hello, I thank you. I'm from Clarendon County. I'm an agricultural producer there also. Been on the PD Area Water Basin Board, and it's been a very eye-opening experience. Say I'm not a great communicator. I'm out of my element standing up here. But I come from a multi-generational farm, and in 2024, to keep it very simple, the house I live in was built in 1800. It was given to me by my grandfather. It's very precious to me. It's where my family was raised. It's where, it's my roots. And in 2024, all of us know that we had a great drought. And I can stand up here and tell you, from the 1800s to now, if my farm didn't have irrigation in 2024, it'd be all over. It'd be over. So what I'm saying is, understand that these water laws and stuff that you're putting in place, how important they are. They affect lives. They affect people. Take it to heart. When I say in 2024, if my farming operation did not have access to water and irrigation, it's over. I want you to think about you, the one running this operation. It takes millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. We put things in the ground. We put fertilizer out there. We use those natural resources to fertilize the land. We spend the diesel fuel. We do that. We put the pesticides out there, not because we want to, because we have to protect the crop. And then we got to have that last little thing. It takes a little bit of water to make that crop at the most important time. We know that water is important. What I'm saying is we use the fertility, we use the diesel fuel, we do all of those things, and we've got to get to the last, you got to get to the last point to produce a crop. So that's why irrigation is important to my farm. And that was the whole reason. Like I told you, I'm not a communicator. I do not want to stand up here. But I knew the importance of coming and telling the story of agriculture. I am not the smartest person in the world. I'm okay to say, I don't know. But I know one thing. The answer to the problem that we're discussing is agriculture. Okay? So if we get 45 inches of rain a year, I may pump 10 inches of water through my pivot. And those other times that my fields are vacant, they are the sponges. They are the sponges where the water returns to the ground. It's easy. You and I are friends. All parts of this industry, we're friends. All of us have to have a part in it. I just came here to tell my part. And I thank you for this time and this opportunity and for what you're doing for you to understand how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Next, we have Brad O'Neill.
Hello, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. And my name is Brad O'Neill. I work with Goosall Farms in Allendale, Hampton, and Beaufort County. And I don't know of a industry that's probably more resilient than farmers. We've had to adapt since the dawn of time. And, I embrace the fact that we're facing this challenge together. And there's so much new technology that's being implemented now. Just like you spoke of, you don't know what's going to happen. But we do realize this is a limited resource. It's super important. I've got 3 children. I'm planning on my children coming back to the farm. And it's very important to us. And that's one thing that's very unique to agriculture is we want to pass it down. We want it to be better than the way we found it. And I'm glad to be a part of this. I thank everyone for being here. Thank you.
Next, we have Jacob Oswald.
I'm Jacob Oswald. I just wanted to say thank y'all for allowing us up here to speak. I come from a family farm in Allendale and also representing an irrigation center pivot dealership. So also our families. And so I kind of have a little bit of knowledge of both the farming side and also, of the irrigation and, what it takes with the center pivots. And the main goal of not only farming, but also, when I deal with a farmer and sell pivots or pumps or pump stations or panels, whatever it may be, the end goal of everything is number one, the bottom line, money is a huge thing. It doesn't operate without, your farm doesn't operate without money. But number two is this equipment being as efficient as it can be. And I can tell you, the company I am a dealership for is Zematic by Lindsay. And they invest, tons and tons of money every year, to make their product more efficient. They're constantly, using, finding new companies out there like Nelson Irrigation to provide the sprinklers on the center pivots. And, they're getting up around 95 to 96% efficient at getting the water that we need to the ground. So we're not wasting any water, and that's the whole thing with farming is we're all about being as efficient as we can be with water. So, as y'all are going through this process and, as y'all are making the state water plan, please remember that we don't want to use any more water than we have to, but we do have to have it. And so thank y'all for y'all's time.
The last name that had signed up previously to speak is Bird Judy, and we're gonna make sure we open it up both online and in the room who also want to speak. Mr. Judy.
Bert Judy from Dorchester County, run a family farm. And we started putting in irrigation about 2012. And since then, we have upgraded our irrigation and we plant cover crops to reduce evaporation and split apply fertilizers to conserve runoff. And, this year was a tough one. We had to run the irrigation a good bit. But then about the time the crop was made, it rained 15 inches in about 24 hours. And it hadn't run since then. But I needed that water for those 15 days. And it saved my crop. And now I got something to sell and hopefully I can make it in the next year. But I've been on the Tri-County TAC Committee dealing with the groundwater in Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester counties, probably about 10 years down there now. And we went through a lot of issues there about permitting and stuff, and hopefully we're making that a little better. But I just want to tell you that the farmers in this state are doing a good job as far as conserving the water. Like I said, cover crops and actually we've had Clemson out to evaluate our pivots and they say they're 93 to 95% efficient. We hate turning the pumps on because that means I got to get up in the middle of the night and check on them 24 hours. So we don't want to use any more than we got to, but we need it for a certain amount of time during the summer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Judy. So I'm gonna go back to those who are joining us virtually and make sure if you do have a comment that you'd like to share into the process tonight, if you could please raise your hand and our virtual event team will note that. We can make sure we hear from you. And likewise, I'm gonna ask y'all that are here tonight, if you want to make sure you make a comment, maybe you didn't quite know when you were coming in and signing in that you wanted to make a comment tonight, but if there's something that you want to share, this is an important part of the process to be able to get more voices back to our WaterSC working group. So are there any additional speakers here in the room tonight? I'm going to check in. Catherine, Donna, do we have anyone else in the virtual room who's raising their hands?
We do not.
I think one key thing to remember is tonight's not the only time that you can connect and bring your voice into this WaterSC process. We encourage you to make sure you stay informed and stay engaged with what's happening with WaterSC. We have a website that continues to be updated. We're adding recordings of every WaterSC working group meeting, the presentation materials, the reports that are being generated, the information that's being shared is all being added to that, as well as our schedule of events. And we look forward to, in the spring and then later in the year, having additional listening sessions that will even go into some different parts of the state beyond Columbia. So please make sure you look for those ways to stay informed and stay engaged, starting with our webpage, which is des.sc.gov/WaterSC. And just want to kind of reiterate again, we've even heard it in the comments tonight. The more voices we bring into this process, the better the result is. Water's that shared resource. Each voice is valuable to WaterSC, and it's valuable to how the working group is continuing to move forward with this very vital and essential work. So please look for the different ways you can continue to share and stay informed about the process. Again, we have that website. You can make comments at any time on that webpage. If you would like to send an email or share some things, I know some of y'all have already through different means to share things back with us. You can use the email that is WaterSC at des.sc.gov as well. So please make sure we continue to connect and hear from you. And I would like to just once again thank the commitment of all those who are serving in that WaterSC working group, all of the support staff, and those from our different sister agencies of the state of South Carolina who are contributing so much, from DNR to DES to we've had input from the Office of Resilience, from PRT and Department of Ag as well. So thanks so much for being here tonight, and please continue to find those ways to stay engaged. The next meeting of the WaterSC Working Group is next Thursday afternoon, January 16th. We're going to be right here. There's always room to be able to listen in at those meetings, not just by coming here, but we also have ETV that helps us with a live stream of those. That's going to be a really critical meeting, looking at surface water a little more fully. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been here and been part of tonight's discussions, from the open house side to the comments that have been received tonight that are going to be an important part of the process. So I'm going to check in one more time virtually. Catherine and Donna, do we have any other hands raised?
Oh, we do not.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And with that, I will adjourn our listening session. Thanks for being here tonight.